Welcome to the Black Girls Heal podcast, where we talk about changing unavailable relationship patterns, healing unresolved trauma, and building a healthy relationship with first you and then others. Every episode, we will talk about actionable advice that you can apply today to break unhealthy patterns and grow your self-worth. I'm Sheena Tubbs. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Black Girls Heal. It has been a minute and some change since our last real full episode, and here we are, y'all. And if you can't tell by my voice, I'm so excited to be able to teach you and love on you and support all of you wherever you are in your relationships today. For those of you who've been wondering, I can't remember what I've been saying the last couple check-in episodes because they haven't been planned. But I have really just been taking it easy and allowing myself to be in the creation mode and work on some things and create things and just rest. And it's been awesome. In fact, today's episode is inspired by one of those creations. So first, let's talk about what we're talking about. Today we are talking about signs that you are in a protected relationship or in a relationship where you feel protected. And this is so important because in this podcast, I teach a lot about red flags. I talk a lot about trauma. I talk a lot about taking ownership and self-love and things to look out for, signs of dysfunction of relationships. But I want to talk about green flags. I want to talk about things for you to know that you are really in the right place or things for you to grow towards. For years, I've had women messaging me, asking me for things specifically for women in partnerships, and just focus on growing your partnership relationships, because so much of the things that I teach are really about coming home to yourself and learning how to love you and learning how to be in control of your own boundaries and emotions and expressing what you need to your partner. But what does that look like within a partnership, right? And so this episode is one of those episodes, or one of those going towards answering those questions. This episode is actually going to be the beginning of a series of episodes that are going to be focused on coupleships and partnerships. And that is because I am finally doing, which again, y'all have been asking me to do for years, which is have something just for women who are currently in relationships or women who want to be in healthy relationships and how to grow and nurture those relationships. Because again, let me be clear, in healthy relationships, because I already talk at length about addictive relationships. We already have a program for that. We have a recovery school from addiction avoidant to available program to help you break those cycles. And for the women who are in relationships or women who are wanting to be in healthier relationships, we are hosting a live workshop in August here in Houston, Texas, live and in person, and it's called the Let Them Love You workshop. And that is because the common thing that I see that happens with women in our community, and when I say our, I mean the Black Girls Heal community. I'm not talking about the world at large. I'm talking about the beauties and the souls that are here in our community, is that we will connect with someone who we really love and care for, that we want to let them in, or they are currently right now doing everything they can to show up for us, and we will push it away. We push it away because we don't know how to receive. We push it away because we're not used to being happy. We'll push it away because we don't quite know how to communicate without the drama. Because there's a part of us that feels insecure and we're afraid that it's going to leave, and we're afraid that they're going to change their mind, that abandonment and rejection trauma is real. And so we are going to be going deep into that, y'all. We're going to do a day workshop. And we're going to start in the morning. We're going to go through the afternoon, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to teach y'all how to let them love you, let them give to you, let them comfort you, let them console you, let them see you, and allow yourself to just receive everything that you deserve and desire. We're going to talk about why it's hard, where it comes from in trauma. We're going to talk about what to do exactly during that time. And I'm going to have love seats, which we're going to go deep. We're going to invite women to ask questions, to answer them, to talk about what's going on and give you game plans and next steps going forward. And I'm so excited about it. I was going back and forth about whether or not to do this online. And I know from our previous retreats and from other events that I've been a part of is that there's nothing like bringing all that energy in one place. So Saturday, August 6th is the day. And like I said, we're going to have several episodes where I'm going to be pouring into you and your relationships and your partnerships and helping you grow, helping you feel secure there. And then at our workshop, we're going to go even deeper. So it's going to be a great time. I hope to see y'all there. You can learn more via the link in the show notes. And of course, you can go to blackgirlsheal.org and find the information and sign up there while tickets are still available. So that's it for that. Let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode. So you can go ahead and get a pen and pencil and just write out the things that you are hearing. And if you're currently in a relationship, if you're talking to someone, if you're back and forth in a situationship with someone where you're like, do I need to give this another chance? Is this salvageable? Is this something that we can actually grow in? I really, really, really want one of the prerequisites that you use for anybody that you are connected to, whether or not you feel protected with them, whether or not the energy, whether or not the environment of the relationship makes you feel safe. Now, again, the caveat is that when it comes to healing our trauma, or the impact of trauma, I should say, is there are some things that no matter how wonderful a person shows up, if we have an unhealed wound towards abandonment and rejection, we can continue to project our own insecurities onto them. And we know this. We talk about this all the time. We talk about getting help, going to therapy, getting support, getting coaching, whatever it is that you need to work through those mindset issues to help you let that person in and let that person love you, right? And we need to be very mindful to not take all of the labor, all of the responsibility and say, well, it must be me. I must be too sensitive. I'm asking for too much. If the relationship is not giving you a firm foundation, showing you that it's safe. Sometimes it doesn't feel safe because it's not safe. Sometimes it doesn't feel like you're being protected because they really are just leaving you out there because they're actually not doing their part. And you're so used to being in relationships with people who turn things around on you. You're so used to doing all the work and carrying all the responsibility. You're so used to trying to fix the problem yourself instead of requiring them to show up for you because you've had people in your past who have done that. And it's been easier for you to put on that cape until it's not easy anymore, until you start to feel the weight of it, the sadness of it, the disappointment of it, and the resentment of it. So what I hope to do is for those of you who are currently in relationships with people who are showing up in the ways that I'm going to be sharing, that this gives you more freedom to exhale and let those guards down and let that person in. For you to see, okay, maybe this isn't as dangerous as I've been looking for it to be. Because again, when we have been through so much relational trauma, we can be looking for red flags and almost inventing them when they don't actually exist, and giving this person a really hard time and then getting mad at them when they're upset with us, and then we feel abandoned and rejected. And why are you so upset when I'm the one who's gone through trauma? Not realizing that it's hurtful to the other person when they are trying to love you and you're not letting them in. And for those of us who are in relationships with people who are not showing up in this way, I hope that this helps open your eyes and helps you not join in the gaslighting, because sometimes we can pick up how other people are gaslighting us, and we self-gaslight and we self-deny and we self-neglect in hopes and aims of trying to keep that person there. And if we repress our needs enough, and if we try to be super chill, and if we try to just go with the flow, then maybe what we actually need to feel safe will go away. And it doesn't go away, y'all. It doesn't go away for a reason, because it's not supposed to go away, because you're actually asking for basic, normal, reasonable things, but your trauma and these fools we can be connected to can make us doubt that. And then again, if you're not in partnership, either because you just haven't met anyone or you have been scared to start to be in partnership, I hope that this helps give you a roadmap on what to look for. So this is not going to be exhaustive, but these are some of the things that I see often in the healthy relationships that I see in my students, that I see in the world, and also what I try to direct the women who are in my care and in my support to look for when it comes to working through becoming more love balanced and love available, because it's easier to be those things when you're in the right environment that is conducive to it, right? Like if I'm with a fuckboy and I'm trying to work on being trusting, I am not setting myself up for success. So let's talk about the 5 things. The first one is that they tell you the truth. The first sign that you will feel protected, or a sign that you're in a relationship that is protective, is if that person tells you the truth. If you find that you are always having to compare notes and details, if you are having to bring receipts to every conversation, if you are having to deal with someone who lies via omission, so intentionally leaving out details and then again turning it on to you that you're the reason why that they had to do that versus them just being honest from the start, that is a sign that something is not right. Versus someone who is forthright about how they feel, forthright with their thoughts, forthright with even if they are confused about things. Feeling protected in a relationship is all about feeling safe and secure, and lying is a form of emotional neglect that will send you into hyperdrive. It will send you to always feeling like you have to look behind you and look to see where the danger is coming from, because that relationship has not given you a safe space to just rest and be. You're always having to be ready to play lawyer. You're always having to be ready to be an emotional linebacker for yourself in case something comes at you sideways, or in case you might need a detail in a really innocuous conversation for something later on, right? Like you never have a chance to really chill. And that's what makes it really hard for you to rest in a relationship. And it makes you feel unprotected because that person is not protecting you, which leads to the second way that you can know that you're in a protected relationship is if that person cares about what you need in addition to what they want. So when someone cares about what you need, they care. It's actually a priority to them that you feel happy, that you feel emotionally safe, and that you feel secure. That's different than them being a doormat. That's different than them agreeing with you for everything. That person, your partner or partners, if you're polyamorous, can really want you to be happy and still have their own voice and still have their own needs, but they are not going to run over you and again emotionally throw you to the wolves and emotionally abandon you to get what they want. The selfishness, the narcissism, the complete denial of you having any priority isn't going to happen all of the time. Now, again, keywords are all of the time. It can and does happen sometimes. In human relationships, we can miss the mark, even with people we really love and care about. We can think that we're doing the best for them and we misunderstand or misinterpret what they need. We can act from our own trigger and do something that is selfish and self-seeking without realizing it. We can have a bad day. We can not want to say I'm sorry first. We can want to do what we want to do that day and not really want to do what they want to do that day. All of those things happen sometimes. But when it is the constant theme in your relationship that is always about what that person wants, that is always about their convenience, that is always about when they're ready, is always about how they've had a long day, how they've been doing more, how things are so hard for them. If you have a partner that plays victim a lot and doesn't show up for themselves and blames everybody for their issues and does all that even though it's emotionally wearing on you because you're carrying all the load, either emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, and they're just leaving you stuck out. That is not an example of someone who cares about what you need in addition to what they want. there is healthy compromise. There is such a thing as healthy interdependence, where someone can be fully connected to themselves and also fully invested in how to connect to you and love on you without leaning into patterns of codependency. There is healthy sacrifice that happens in relationships too. And how does it happen? So it can happen via having a conversation. Maybe your partner is not aware of what you need because they grew up in a totally different household. Maybe they were in long-term partnerships before they were in a partnership with you. And when you're with different people may want different things. And so there's some unlearning they need to do on their own and relearning about you. Maybe they've been single for a long time and they don't really know how to do relationships. Maybe this is just stubbornness and there's two different sides who need to come together and learn how to do life together. There can be a whole lot of reasons why, but conversation is one way that compromise and self-sacrifice can happen. Sometimes you're with a partner who just intuitively, or because they've done their own work, is a very thoughtful person and they're very observant and they're able to pay attention to what are the things that are important to you. They're able to prioritize the things that they notice that you've asked for, and they remember it. I see often that sometimes partners will, in their phone, literally keep notes on things that the other person has asked for, that they've made exclamations about, or that's important to them so that they can remember for later on, which I think is really great. Sometimes it happens through their own self-education and self-development work and learning about themselves, but also pouring into learning about relationships. A really interesting book that I never paid attention to because it sounded so ridiculous and so binary that I was like, that cannot have any credence to it. Is the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I just remember, especially, my degree is in Master's in Family Therapy. And I remember thinking in my very elitist thought pattern, okay, whatever, I'm not reading a book that says that, just like there's another book that talks about men are spaghetti and women are something, I don't know. But I was totally playing it down, and I've recently started reading it, and I was like, there's some things in this book that make a lot of sense. I've been running by some of the things that it says about men, the author says about men, to the men I have around me in my life, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what? Who'd have thunk it? So through your own, I'm just sharing that title in general as an example to just say, as we grow as people, we can learn the things that we never knew that we didn't know, and we can bring that into our friendships, into our family relationships, into our partnerships, and we can adjust from there. And I'm sharing those in juxtaposition of what should not happen, or what may make you feel unsafe if it happens, if the way that person starts to realize what it is that you may need and want only happens at war, an emotional war on the battlefield, where it's always a fight. And whether or not always in your relationship is a hyperbole, or if it actually is always. So is it that every time that you are feeling uncomfortable or sad or disappointed, you have to go through several hours of fights and negotiation and big explosive conversations, and they get triggered and they get upset, and you have to work through emotionally calming them down and giving them space, or you negotiating the relationship, or you coming to a place where you outshout them or out argue them or outmaneuver them before they get to a place where maybe they accept what you feel, where maybe they may pay a little bit of attention to it. Those kind of arguments and conversations, again, happen because we're human, and because as we learn each other, if there's different life circumstances or things that are upsetting to us, or life is lifing, is not a red flag if those conversations happen. But if it is the norm for your relationship, if it is that you always feel like you have to fight to be seen, to be heard, to be valued, that is going to make you feel unsafe in your relationship. And that is why even if the conversation ends on a good note, you can't see my air quotes, but even if it ends on a good note where they may say, I'm sorry, or they may take ownership for their behavior, the fact that you had to be dragged through emotional hell for hours or days or weeks or however long the fight took, and you always feel like you have to do that again, if always is a hyperbole or often, more often than not, that is emotionally draining. And that makes it hard for you to feel safe, for you to feel like you can trust that person actually has your best in mind for them if it's not about them. And that's why sometimes those things can come up in fights and in relationships. So just let's recap, because I'm talking about both. I wasn't just gonna talk about the green flags without pointing out what this may look like for my sisters in dysfunctional relationships, only because I know what it looks like when you are really, really, really trying to hold on to something, or you're really, really, really taking the emotional labor, and you can hear someone talking about some positive things that are happening, and you'll take the little crumbs, you'll take the little moments, and you'll magnify them instead of realizing that maybe these things happen less than you would like them to. And also you may say, okay, they do care about how I feel, but you're forgetting the fact that you had to fight all day to get there, and that it's always a fight to get there. I need us, again, to not gaslight ourselves. So just to recap, signs or ways or things that can happen in a relationship that will make you feel protected is, one, if you have a partner that is telling you the truth without you having to fight for it. Again, I'm always going to give the caveat that humans are going to human, and things happen, and no one is perfect, but that this is a person that operates in integrity and honesty when it comes to you and your relationship, that you can trust that they're going to tell you the truth, and you don't have to go and do all the things that will make you feel safe, and that is a person that you are looking for to be in partnership with, because you know that you can just rest in knowing that they are faithful in that way. Number two, you will feel safe in a relationship and feel protected if you know that they care about what you need in addition to what they want, that there's no real tug of war between the two, that they are going to actively be working towards how to be fair to themselves, but also how to love on you. The third way, or the third thing that can happen and does happen that makes you feel safe in a relationship, that makes you feel protected in a relationship, is if they do not allow others to disrespect you. Now, this is a biggie. This is a biggie in multiple ways. This is a biggie when it comes to the place of in-laws, when it comes to the place of outside friend groups, when it comes to the place of just walking around in public. Unfortunately, for many of us, we may have had an experience where we do not know what it feels like to be protected, where we can feel like we are just living life out there and just having to be our own superwoman. Again, just to bring that example back up, because I think it's so fitting. So many of us have learned how to put on the armor and put on the cape, and it's gotten heavy over the years. And we really, really, really would love to have someone who will protect us in these ways, but then also trauma and everything else will make us feel like, is this even possible? So it is possible. It is very much possible, and you're very much deserving of it. And one way that you can know that you're with someone who cares for you is that they don't allow others to disrespect you. So let's talk about what this looks like. This looks like, and this is where it's going to get tricky, y'all. Y'all may have been with me up until now, and it may get a little bit dicey right here, but I'm going to say the biggie right now first, which is in-laws. More than anything, or more than any other example, when I've talked to couples in the past, or talked to partners and couples about feeling just really left out, they will talk about how a partner is not protecting them from insults, from manipulation, from being ousted and excluded, from being humiliated by a mother-in-law, especially. But it can also be grandmas, aunties, cousins, fathers, and feeling like their partner does not stand up for them. And it allows them to be disrespected and treated less than and treated as a nuisance and a burden. And no matter how wonderful your partner treats you one-on-one, when that happens with the other person there and present, or if they're not there and present and you go and tell them about it and they act like it's not that big of a deal or they downplay it, that can be so very hurtful. And in the same way that I try to give grace and love to why this is hard to the other person, when I was talking about our mother wounds and talking about how hard holding two things true at the same time, that the hurt that we may have experienced at the hands of our mothers is very real and needs to be paid attention to, but also understanding that for mom to take full ownership of her things, that means she has to face a lot of her wounds and her traumas and her demons. That can be so terrifying and painful for her, and just understanding that those two things can be existing at the same time. If you have a partner who, if they're a male, has felt emasculated in their power because of the relationships in their life, male, female, or otherwise, and you're getting disrespected, them standing up for you would require them to face those traumatic wounds that they probably don't even know how to face for themselves. They probably have figured out the way that they got along, or the way they made it was to go along to get along, and just try to minimize it and downplay it and ignore it and be the best son ever and go into their own little emotional hole. And so when you come around and you're like, no, like, this is not my blood family and I don't have to take this, and you're raising arms and everything, they may not know how to handle it, because the way that they've learned how to survive is to go within. And that may explain it, but it doesn't excuse it, right? Again, two things could be true at the same time. And so the more that they don't stand up for you or show up for you, the more hurtful it can be for you. Contrast that to a relationship where you are being disrespected and that person steps in, male, female, or otherwise, and they're like, this is my partner. If you have an issue, you need to talk to me. You do not talk to her about that. If we're not going to do these games, or, if she can't come, I'm not coming. If you will not listen to her with the way that the children need to be raised and the way that she wants them to be parented, they won't come over. For them to become the middle person and be that shield and protector for you is a beautiful thing. If friend groups are doing the same thing, bringing other people around to try to break all up, starting rumors and things about you, making fun of you, comparing you to their previous partners, and doing it very outlandishly, and they are not stepping in, and you find out about it, or you hear about it, or you're there when it happens, that can be very hurtful, versus if they set them straight and claim you and say that you are their partner. And y'all know what I mean by claim before anybody gets upset. But that they protectively, in love, say that you are theirs, and that no one is going to treat you less than because you are their priority and you are their partner, right? That does something. And also in public, like there is nothing like being in a relationship, a friendship, a partnership. And I'm also including friendships, y'all, because many times we will magnify romantic relationships as being the end all be all and the highest form of partnerships. And we will forget the fact that we are being just as romanced and loved and cared for in our platonic friendships and in our family relationships. And we will completely deny that those things are happening, saying, well, I know that they love me, and I know that they care for me, and I know that they're helping me, and I know that they gift me things, and I know they give me compliments. But if I had a woman next to me, if I had a man next to me, then I would feel better. And y'all, we're the ones who invite our own pity parties. We're the ones who create them, and we're the ones who hang up the decorations and just allow ourselves to feel really low and just say, I wish I had love in my life, when you're surrounded by love. And it's up to us to open our eyes to really receive that and rest in that and feel that fulfillment and feel that joy and happiness. Because if we don't know how to do that with what we have in front of us, it's going to be really hard for us to feel that way when we have even more blessings and even more abundance, because we're in that place of lack. We're in that place of feeling like it's never enough, not realizing that it doesn't feel like enough, because that starts on the inside of us, because we are not in a place of full gratitude. But what I was about to say, if you were in any relationship and you're going out in public and seeing someone step out in front of you because they're protecting you from a threat that they saw that maybe you didn't see, or maybe you did see and they have their arm around you, or they're scanning the scene. Y'all, the way that I don't know about you, but the way that makes me feel so good and so special and so safe, and like I just want to be around them all the time. Seeing women, especially Black women, protected and stood up for in popular culture and media, which again, some of y'all got to hear me talk about that a little bit before. Y'all, there is nothing more reaffirming to your humanity and dignity, and lets you just rest assured. But when you feel like you always have to protect yourself and that you're just stuck out there, it reaffirms any feelings of rejection and abandonment that you may have, as if you are not deserving of being protected, and maybe even resentment that this is always a place that you find yourself in, and feeling a little bit hopeless, versus looking at who do you have around you. Anyone who you have around you, y'all, who's leaving you to the wolves, maybe shouldn't be in your inner circle or even in your life. Anyone in your life who persistently is always like, well, I'm going to protect me and I'm going to do what works best for me, and just leaves you out there, does not care enough about you. Maybe they care, but they don't care enough about you. And yeah, I'm not going to qualify that. You need to be with people who believe you matter. And I don't think that's reaching for the stars to say that. I think that's basic. You need to be with people who believe that you matter. So in addition to, that's number 3, you want to be in relationships with people who don't allow others to disrespect you. And also they don't disrespect you as well. I'm going to say this again for probably the upteenth time. Humans are going to human. We have disagreements. We have fights. We have petty arguments. Y'all, I can't remember if this was me in real life or if this was something I saw on the internet. But I think this is someone I saw on the internet. But I saw one girl. Just evidence that even the people who teach this can be acting up sometimes. But I saw one thing about this girl who, like, I want to say she hid one of her boyfriend's or her husband's shoes. Like, the pairs were still there, but she hid one of the shoes someplace else, so they only had one shoe. And I just thought it was funny. But that's not respectful, y'all. Y'all, listen, am I gonna delete this? No, I think I'm gonna keep it because this is real. But humans are going to human, right? So when I talk about them disrespecting you, I'm talking about emotional abuse. I'm talking about mental abuse. I'm talking about verbal abuse. I'm talking about physical abuse. I'm talking about sexual abuse. I'm talking about financial abuse. The same theme of they want to make sure that you feel happy and safe and secure. Even if they're mad at you for a day or a week or, a few hours, that they're in their feelings, but they do not want any harm to come to you. They do not want you to feel dehumanized. They do not want you to feel less than. Their priority is not that they feel so much in power that they could give a care that they couldn't care less how you feel. And that's what you want to look for. If you're in a relationship with someone who's always fighting dirty, who's always shooting slugs, who resorts to stonewalling you and pushing you out until you feel like crap, until you are emotionally begging and in pain for them to come back around, that is not very respectful. If you find that they are, and this is not an agreement that you have in your relationship, if they are flirting with other people in front of you, if they are taunting you and comparing you to previous people in your life who've hurt you, i.e., you're just like your mom. That's why your ex-husband left you. That's why, and they're always saying and doing things that make you feel like crap. That is not someone who respects you. In regards to the invisible labor that happens in the house, if you're with a partner who always downplays how you show up in the family and how you show up in the relationship and the things that you contribute, that shows a lack of respect as well. Now, I'm going to say here, in case I haven't made this clear before, that humans are going to human. And I think almost all of the ones that I've shared, just the contrary version of it, the opposite end. So if they struggle with knowing how to prioritize your needs in addition to their needs, if they don't know how to honor what you bring to a relationship in addition to them. A lot of these things are things that are built for couples therapy. They're built to help a mediator. Again, if people come from different households, different relationships, you're learning how to share literally as adults, especially if you're someone who's been single for a long time or you're older. We can get very in our journeys towards loving ourselves and getting more secure in ourselves. We can also get very fixed in what works for us, and to have a life with someone, to build a partnership, even if it's someone who you may consider your soulmate. Learning how to share is frustrating. Learning how to be emotionally on, even with someone who excites you, even with someone who you just want to make smile all the time, that can be stressful. I'm just trying to find the right word. That can be stressful sometimes, even with people who you're deeply in love with. And so you may need external help, external support to help you hear what that person is saying while also balancing your own thing, right? So I'm not saying these things for anyone who's like, oh man, we definitely just got in a fight about this last week, and they don't really know how to honor what I bring. I'm not telling you to break up with that person. I hope you don't hear me saying that. And if you do, that's why I'm telling you right now, because maybe y'all just need to have a mediated conversation to work through it, and to help you find mutual ground. And something that I tell my clients, and I'm sure I've told y'all before too, that your decision on what works for you and what doesn't work for you is a neutral, amoral, I hope I'm saying that word, I'm using the word in the right context, but there's no moral connection to whether or not you, in your relationship, it works for you to not require someone to show up in a certain way, but in someone else's relationship, it's a deal breaker. So for example, in one person's relationship, it may be a deal breaker that some person is not verbally affirming all of the time about what they do and how they show up. That can be something that for them is like, I just feel so unseen and I feel taken for granted and I feel unacknowledged. And for another person, they don't really need that, but they need that person to show up that they care and that they are seen in other ways, by helping out, by gifts, by, what up some of the other love languages. But that is for you to figure out. And it's also for you to see, okay, if this person continued to do this forever, would this make me feel happy and safe, or would this weigh on me? Would this emotionally deplete me? Would this be emotionally toxic for me? Would I become resentful? Am I already resentful and I'm just trying to figure out how to deal with it? You got to choose, because part of being in a partnership and a relationship is choosing that person for exactly who they are and not who you want them to be. And so if you have been talking with someone and going to therapy and going to counseling, and that person is not able to pivot in a way that makes you feel emotionally safe, and you've done all of your emotional work and all the emotional labor you're in, you need to decide, is this something that you can deal with? And for some people, it's going to be like, all right, I love them enough, and all of the good outweighs the smaller thing. And for some other people, it doesn't outweigh it. And that decision is totally up to you. Let me say this, and it may or may not fit, but it just comes to mind as I'm recording this. Sometimes I will have students and clients who are just dating somebody and they've been dating for just a few months, and they'll be going through these problems with these people and seeing some of the concerns that I'm bringing up here, and they're like, should we try couples counseling? And if you are newly connected to someone, you don't have anything legally binding you, you don't have any property binding you, you don't have children binding you, you don't have any real ties outside of the fact that you really like that person. If you are seeing these things happen, you are not bound to stay with them. Doing couples therapy when you just met somebody, to me, sounds like a lot of work, and you can totally disagree. And again, please take ownership of your own life and what feels for you. Take what you need here and leave the rest. If it doesn't fit, leave it. Please leave it. But I just think, and I know the first few months are supposed to be the honeymoon period. And if you are putting out fires, if there are so many red flags, you feel like you're in a circus. If there is just so much going on, you have to work on your own self-love and self-respect and knowing that you deserve more. That one, even if life has been this chaotic and toxic and hard and relationships have been so this traumatic in the past, the future you, this next chapter, it don't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this hard. And if there's a part of you that doesn't believe that that's possible, if there's a part of you that when I say that and when you feel that, there's a little twinge, even if it's just a moment, even if it's just a second, that's like, but what if? You got to deal with that, but what if? Because that what if is what's leading a lot of your relationship decisions. That lower self-worth, that lack of self-belief, that self-doubt that you may be projecting onto other people. Why can't I meet somebody who's good for me? Well, there's a part of you that doesn't believe that someone is good enough for you. And you may be taking people who don't meet your standards or meet what should be your standards because you're afraid that you may not be able to get it. Okay? So if someone's giving you the blues, y'all, you don't need to stay. You don't need to stay. And you can have better, and you can wish them well, and you can say, I'm sure you're a great person and you're going to be a good person, and you can leave, and you don't have to stay friends with someone to do that as well. That's another little sneaky thing that we do. We will stay friends. You can't see my air quotes. We'll stay friends with someone because of two reasons. There's usually two reasons. The first one is codependency. You are so afraid that by you setting boundaries, you're hurting someone, you're ruining their life, they're never going to make it without you, that they need you around them to be a good influence. They don't need you, hon. They had a whole life before you. And they can find other people when they are ready to change because you're typically breaking up for them for a reason. And again, you're not a caseworker, you're not a social worker, you're not a therapist, you off the clock unless they're paying you a retainer, and even then you get to choose who your clients are. You don't need to pick them up on your roster. You don't have to stay connected to them. You can release them to make space for the people who have the energy and the space to pour into them freely. And then the other reason why we may call it staying friends with them is because we want to keep that attention and keep that validation in our back pocket. We want to keep it as a backup. And all that does is just makes it easier for you to fall into situationships, if not with them, but with future people, because you're feeding that fear that you can't have what you want. So you got to cut ties, y'all. You got to cut ties. And you get to decide what cut ties means. I go through and I support women with cutting ties, what that looks like in our programs. But I'm just saying that for you right here because I don't know everybody's story. That's just my suggestion. Again, you get to do what feels best for you. All right. So recapping green flags. Because I'm doing a lot more explanation of the bad parts than the good parts. But green flags, if you're in a partnership with someone who tells you the truth, they care about what you need in addition to what they want, that they don't allow other people to disrespect you, that they do not disrespect you as well. And the last green flag is they like you as a person. Before I talk about them liking you as a person, let me also say A sign that someone respects you is also apologizing. It's not that someone always gets it right. It's not that someone is bowing at your feet and laying roses, which that'd be nice. And that goes both sides, y'all. Some of us are so focused on what we get from relationships that we forget that we are partner to a whole human being who has their own emotional needs and wants, male and female. Okay, for my queens that date men and marry men and partner with men, please do not forget that those men also have real life feelings and hearts and desires and need to be esteemed and loved on too. Don't let the muscles fool you. They need it. Don't let the facial hair fool you. Don't let the inability to be as loquacious as you are about your feelings fool you, that they have less feelings than you do. They have them, okay? So show up for your partners as well. But apologies, with that said, an apology is a sign of respect as well. And you can give that person the same gift, okay? Now, the last sign that will allow you to feel protected and safe in a relationship is if you feel like they like you as a person. Some of us are feeling very despised and we can feel the resentment from the other person. We can feel the grudge. We can feel the emotional wall that they're only tolerating us, that we are being used as a placeholder, that we are roommates, that we are not equals in some way. And you're just trying to deal with it. And again, that can be and feel emotionally depleting and hurtful. And if you come from a past where you are only seen for the things that you can give other people, that your emotions are neglected, that you've never had people take real joy in your presence and get excited when you entered the room, like if you grew up as a little girl and that wasn't your experience, it makes you more susceptible to be in relationships with people who do the adult version of that. And so here you are, feeling less and less loved and taken care for and esteemed, and you're wondering what's wrong, or the only emotion that you allow yourself to feel is anger instead of the hurt and betrayal and resentment underneath it, and you just it just eats at the relationship, and you don't feel emotionally safe. You don't feel emotionally safe to give, to show up, to be sexually intimate, to partner, to be honest. You might even want to go outside the relationship for some of those things, and it happens. It happens when you don't feel like someone likes you as a person. Like if they just wouldn't chill with you if they had the choice, if y'all didn't live together, if y'all didn't have, if you didn't feel obligated to be around each other for whatever reason. So when you have someone whose eyes shine when you walk into the room, and this is even past the honeymoon period, right? People who have been together for a long period of time will talk about how the love has shifted from a very intense, passionate, rip your clothes off kind of thing every moment, where the passion may still be there, but it may look different, where there's more security and safety, that there's more companionship and just comfort in having that partnership, right? Because they like each other, because they're friends. And if you feel like this person is not your friend, if y'all were to meet each other at this point in time, just strangers on the street with the same energy you currently have, and y'all would not get along and y'all wouldn't like each other, there may be some repairing that needs to be done there. When you feel like that person is your bestie, or not even your bestie, but just a friend, because, some people will talk about how, they'll have friendships that complete them and support them in different ways in their romantic partnerships, which is also healthy. Again, you get to decide, and you two are the ones who know what works best for your relationship. So don't fall into the trap of doing what works for other people. You need to pay attention to what makes you feel emotionally safe and secure, and what makes the other person feel safe and secure, and that is functional for what you're growing. But when you feel like you're in partnership with someone who's your friend, you feel safe to dream. You feel safe to explore. You feel safe to share your emotions even when they're not the pretty emotions, even when they may be a little bit uncomfortable. Basically, when you feel like someone likes you as a person, that's secure attachment in the adult form. So instead of it being the baby who knows that they're loved and know that they're always protected by the secure parents, so they're free to explore and do what they want, because you're connected to someone who's a safe space for you, you feel that same safety and exploration. You feel that same security and knowing that you are deeply loved, right? And so that's what you want. That's what you're looking for. Does this person like you? Do they find joy in you? Do they admire at least one thing about you? Even if y'all are opposites in so many other ways, do they look at you with admiration and, again, with respect for who you are and what you bring into the world? A sign that you can know that you may be in a partnership with someone who doesn't really see you or acknowledge you or like you as a person is if you find that you may start to shine a little bit less. I see this a lot with women who may have described themselves as very extroverted or ambitious, or even if they were introverted, that they had talents and they like to draw or paint and do things that brought them joy, but they're with a partner that maybe scoffed at those things or didn't really appreciate them or kind of drug them to their level, that they may find that they stop showing up in their full self and their full light because it wasn't appreciated. And so it became easier, again, just to go along to get along, maybe to do the things that the other person wanted to do, or they just stopped feeling as confident because they weren't getting the affirmation and the joy that they were getting from the outside life with the person that they are spending the majority of their time with now, or a lot of their time with now. And so if you find that you are shrinking back in some areas because you're with a person who doesn't make you a better person, that's the other thing that happens when you're in partnership with someone who likes you as a person, is their belief in you makes you want to shine brighter. It makes you want to do more. It makes you want to be a better person. I mean, we hear that all the time from people who are in healthy partnerships. They bring out the best in you. Just because of that a feeling that you get from them. And so those are the types of relationships that you want to be with. And for the 99,000th time, all relationships go through ebbs and flows. So it may not be like this 100% of the time, but you want it to be more often than not. And if you're with someone who's a healthy partner and you're finding that this is happening more less than often, but you've had a really healthy foundation, again, this is what couples therapy and couples coaching and mediation and all those things are for, to help you figure out, okay, where is the disconnect coming from? Where is the miscommunication coming from? Because it happens. It happens to the healthiest and the most open people because we all have blind spots. We are all seeing things through our own best experiences and our best intentions, and we do the best that we know how, and we all need a little bit of help. That's why humans are built to live in community. We're not built to figure it out on our own. And if you're someone who is experiencing a lot of relationship dynamic issues, and you've been trying to figure it out and getting books on Audible and doing all this stuff on your own, no shade, because I'm an Audible queen. I love my Audible, but your best perspective is only going to get you so far. You really, 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 really need an outside person to support you. So please don't drag on any discomfort and stress that you're going through in your everyday life because you are a little bit prideful or even a little bit fearful to reach out for help. You get to pick the right people to help you. You get to pick the people that you vibe with, the people that you feel like you can trust. And if you meet someone, even if they come highly recommended and you're like, this ain't it, it ain't it. And you get to move on and find the person who is going to support you in the language and in the energy and in the vibes that you need and you want, and also the expertise. I'll share this, just looking at the time, but One of the things that learned in my graduate program when I was studying to be a therapist is that when it came to client outcomes, I don't know if I'm supposed to share this with y'all. Well, I'm already here. When it comes to client success rates, research found at the time that I was studying, research found that a person's level of expertise mattered 10 to 15% in how well that person did in therapy. So that means that a person who had 15 years of experience versus someone who had 5 years of experience, it wasn't like the person who had 25, 50 years of experience necessarily was a better fit for someone just because they had more years. What mattered more, and again, I'm going to butcher these percentages, but what mattered more was, I want to say it was between 25 to 30, maybe even 35%, but like the therapeutic relationship mattered more than twice as much, whether or not a client got better. And that's because it's all about trust. It's all about whether or not you feel like that person actually likes you and cares for you and actually has your best interests at heart, that they are invested in you getting better, that they are motivated. And if you are going to talk to someone, therapist, coach, or otherwise, and you feel like they're just sitting there and you feel like they couldn't care less on what's going on with you, or that they're just, watching the clock, it's going to make you feel very defeated. It's going to make you feel even less motivated. So I'm saying all that to say, y'all, that if you have ever been scarred with finding help before, that person may not have been the right fit, but that doesn't mean that person doesn't exist for you. And so I really want you that if you find someone, if you come across someone that you feel like gets you and you feel like the way that they talk about things really you connect to reach out, make that appointment, make that next step, go to whatever they have available and participate. Okay? So that's it for today's episode. I hope that you found it helpful. I hope that you feel connected to it. And I hope that this helped the people who needed to hear it. So if you are one of my lovely ladies who feels connected to me and would really love to have more support in this area and letting someone love you. Maybe you already connected to someone who is super healthy. Maybe you are wanting to be connected to someone who's super healthy. Maybe you're a little bit half and half. Y'all are working through the human issues and you know that maybe they have their parts, but you also have your own parts, and letting them in, letting them nurture you, love you, connect to you. I would love to see you in Houston, Texas. I would love to hug your face. I would love to just connect with you and answer your questions and help you go deeper with that, and give you some tools and some skills to bring back to your relationships. You can join us at our Let Them Love You workshop on August 6th and come and get your life, girl. So you can learn more by going to blackgirlsheal.org. Again, that's blackgirlsheal.org, and clicking on our Let Them Love You workshop link. And also you can just click directly on the link in our show notes if you're listening to this on a podcast player. So sending you all love, and I can't wait to see you in our next episode. As always, take care of yourselves. Hey, so thanks for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoy what you learned today, it doesn't have to stop here. Check out the Black Girls Heal website at blackgirlsheal.org for more resources to help you heal from intimacy disorders like love addiction and love avoidance. The best time to start or restart your healing journey is now. You can grab a free copy of our 5-step roadmap to heal love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation by going to blackgirlsheal.org/roadmap. And if you're on social media, feel free to follow us at Black Girls Heal on Instagram and Facebook.